Well, Gujarat MLA Jignesh Mevani, who was arrested by the police in Assam for a tweet about Prime Minister Modi last week, was granted bail this afternoon by a local court, but within minutes arrested again in another case registered by the Assam police so that they could keep him in their custody. The first arrest itself was a clear case of overreach, where the Assam police went all the way to Gujarat to take the legislator into their custody for a tweet after a BJP leader's complaint. Mevani was charged with criminal conspiracy with offence relating to the place of worship, outraging religious feelings and provocation that might lead to the breach of peace. There is no mention of any religion in the tweets that he's supposedly guilty of putting out. Meanwhile, in Maharashtra, the Bombay High Court did not quash an FIR filed against independent MP Navneet Rana and her husband MLA Ravi Rana, who were arrested and even charged with sedition for announcing that they would recite the Hanuman Chalisa outside Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray's residence. That triggered off a series of protests by Shiv Sainiks. The question now is that yes, it's very clear that our laws are being misused by governments and parties in power against critics, dissenters and their political opponents. But do the courts need to be more proactive in these cases? Justice Deepak Gupta, who has served on India's Supreme Court, joins us on NDTV this evening. Justice Deepak Gupta, thank you for being with us, sir. May I first ask you your thoughts on the case of Jignesh Mevani being arrested, firstly, for a couple of tweets? Maybe, some would say they were in poor taste, but, he's arrested in that. He gets bail today and then is arrested in another case. Isn't this a clear misuse of the law, sir?
I mean, this is clearly a case of the police being used to settle scores. I don't support what this MLA from Gujarat said. I mean, even if you oppose the Prime Minister, every citizen has a right to oppose, but it must be done in decent language. But having said that, there was no criminal offence from what I've read of his tweets. No criminal offence is made out. And then he gets bail and immediately thereafter is arrested in another case. He'll get bail in that, then they'll arrest him in another case. I think the time has come when courts must start awarding very heavy compensation in cases like this, where people are arrested just for putting forth their views, which may or may not be in good taste, but don't amount to a criminal offence.
One of the concerns is, as you said yourself, that the courts need to step up. Is that the judicial magistrate, for example, in Jignesh Mevani's case, sent him into police custody. Is there a lot of pressure on judicial magistrates to act in accordance with what the police tells them to do? How does it work, sir?
No, I won't say this. I'm so sorry. Miri, can you were saying something?
No, I was just asking. I mean, I know on paper they're supposed to be independent, but are they?
No, I think by and large, let's be honest, he did grant bail. I mean, they are by and large, even the judicial magistrates are independent. Like all human beings, I mean, there are magistrates and magistrates. There are some who may bow down or bow down to pressure, others will not. But having said that, the pressure on the judiciary is also a lot. These cases are such high-profile cases. You look at the poor sub-judge, don't compare him to a Supreme Court judge. You compare somebody in the Mufassal court, he's under so much pressure. If he doesn't grant bail, then one group is going to say he's sort of playing the game of the government. If he grants bail, then other allegations will be made. I think let's leave the judiciary by the side. But it is, for me, what is more worrisome is that the police keeps on doing this case. And sedition is something which I've always advocated does not need to be on the statute book. And I also feel the time has come when the Supreme Court should again relook that defamation should not be a criminal offence. If anybody feels he has been defamed, he should file a civil suit.
Absolutely. And coming to the sedition point, in fact, the Supreme Court has already many years ago laid down what is considered sedition. It actually would mean inciting violence, and we've seen governments misusing that over the years. But also we heard about a year ago, Chief Justice Ramanna had said, and I quote him, that it's a colonial law. It was used by the British to suppress freedom. And is it a law that is needed after 75 years of independence? He said our concern is its misuse and no accountability of the executive. But it's been a year, Justice Deepak Gupta. What is stopping the Supreme Court from taking a more proactive role on something like this?
No, I think the Supreme Court should I personally feel that this case, which has come up to the Supreme Court, is now the challenge is again to the constitutionality of the provision, and that must be decided. I personally would hold this provision to be unconstitutional, but even if I was not to, I would put in a lot of safeguards into use of this. It can't be, sedition is a crime against the country. It can't be that Deepak Gupta files a case against Nidhi Razdan in one corner of the country where, he feels he can get an order of sedition. No, it has to be, even if there must be safeguards, somebody at a very senior level must decide whether a case is made out, and it should be a bailable offence. It should not be a non-bailable offence. It should be something which a magistrate can take note of only on a complaint by the police and not otherwise.
But again, the point is the Supreme Court already laid down what the guidelines should be on the sedition law, and authorities clearly are not listening to that. I mean, in the Maharashtra case, they wanted to shout, they wanted to chant Hanuman Chalisa outside the Chief Minister's residence. And this is again a clear case of overreach to bring sedition into it. And they've got 14 days judicial custody. Do they deserve to be in jail for 14 days?
Not at all, not at all. And this is what worries me, is that it is being used by all parties across the spectrum to settle scores. Whether it's a professor in Kolkata, a cartoonist, or a MLA in Mumbai, or Mewani in Assam, and so many other cases, the amount of misuse of the provisions of sedition, the Money Laundering Act, etc., it's now, becoming very, very worrisome. I was reading an article by Mr. Julio Rivero, the former governor and also former commissioner of police, where he said that, this police, the independence of the police is also sacrosanct. And today the police, unfortunately, is behaving at the call of its master, that is the politicians, unfortunately, and not doing its constitutional function, which is to follow the constitution.
All right, Justice Deepak Gupta, sir, thank you for joining us and being sort of forthright in saying that the judiciary too needs to step up. As you said, this is a question of institutional independence, whether it is the police, whether it is central agencies like the CBI, the ED, others, and of course, the sort of political weaponization of these laws against opponents and critics. Thank you, sir.